Wow. A warm welcome, dear Kovsies and everyone else that's joining us. Welcome to #SecureTheGrad. Today, we're talking the ultimate guide to academic success. So for you who's joining us for the very first time, we want to extend the heartiest and warmest welcome. It is cold in the Free State today. It is gloomy. It is gray. So we're hoping to bring the heat here at #SecureTheGrad. And for those of you who are #Tribe, welcome back. We hope that you've had a good kickstart to the semester. Now, I'm very excited about today. It's our first webinar for the last semester of 2023, and we want to make sure that we set you up on the great course to what? Secure the grad. But those of you who are not yet securing the grad, want to make sure that you're on the right track to move from the semester to next year. We know that quite a big part of our target audience, or our audience today, are first-year students who are curious to know, how do I prepare myself to become a senior? Well, you're in the right place this afternoon. Our speakers are well-versed in how to make sure they help students on their journey to being successful, not just from one module to the other, but also from the one year to the next, or even from the one campus to the other. So for those of you who do not know, I'm Evodia Mohanyani, and I'm your host for today's webinar and every other webinar, unless, win the lottery, of course. But let's get off that. My team is most probably going to tell me, Evodia, stay on track, and I've promised to be the best host for you this afternoon. Ladies and gents, our webinar today is talking about the ultimate guide to academic success. We've brought various speakers from academic advising, people who know the rules, people who know the students, but also people who know the institution. We've also brought in a special guest today. Our couch, or what used to be called our couch series, our student voice, is back, and we're excited about our speakers going to kick this segment for us off. So if you are, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag a little. So if you are #HouseLehakwe, you might just be excited because we have your alumni with us this afternoon. So ladies and gentlemen, before we start our conversation, it's important to talk to you about our house rules. So in order to have the best possible webinar today, to create the best viewer experience for you and participant experience for you, we're going to ask that you keep your microphone disabled. Our technical team will ensure that this is the case, as well as your cameras. We know that sometimes data costs are very high and load shedding, that we can save you battery, but we can also save you data at the same time. But we're going to have a burning and a very serious Q&A segment. At that point of our webinar, we'll ask you to raise your hands and your microphones will be enabled. But for now, let's keep them disabled. Next up, we want to encourage you to engage with our speakers, as well as myself on the host, but also with your fellow participants on the platform. How you can do that is by engaging on the chats. Our chat platform is already opened up, so we want to hear from you. We want to know how you're feeling. Is it a up? Is it a down? Is it I'm not sure? So let us know in the chat on the bottom. And as per STG style, we will be rewarding the best people who are engaging with us in this webinar. So lots of prizes up for grabs. We do have the ultimate prize, of course, and that is an exclusive invite with our industry experts. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this show on the road. I am delighted to introduce to you our guests for today's webinar. We've got Mr. Albert Mukwena. He is the academic advisor, senior academic advisor on the Qwaqwa campus. So Qwaqwa, you are well represented today. Albert, we're looking forward to having you in our webinar. We also have Bohlokwa Ranja. I call Bohlokwa teacher Bohlokwa. Okay, so she is on her journey to become a PhD candidate, and she's going to tell you all about that in a few. So Bohlokwa, welcome. It's good to have you back at the UFS. And listen, we're looking forward to your first time on #SecureTheGrad. Definitely the place to be. And last but not least, a very familiar face, someone who's almost part of this family, Kitubetsi Kate, a warm welcome. We're looking forward to having you here. And thank you to our audience for the love that you are showing to our guests today. So, ladies and gents, now that we're done with the house rules, one last thing I want to mention is that we will be using polls throughout our webinar today to make sure that you stay engaged and that we hear from you on how the conversation is going. Last but not least, we want to make sure that we bring better, if not the best, webinars for you after today. So we'd like to hear from you. How did today's webinar go? So that will pop up on your screen. You'll also see a link being posted in our chat function. Please complete it because that improves your chances to being selected to join us in our prestigious and very exclusive dinner where we'll be networking with industry giants. Okay, everyone, let's get the show on the road. I want to see, I'm not feeling the love in the chat, guys. Like, I'm not feeling you. I don't know if it's because we've got new people and maybe they're not sure. Here at Secure the Grad, guys, we talk to each other. We're excited. I saw Tembile giving me like a nice warm welcome. Where is the rest of you? So let me see how excited you are and how ready you are. I know it's cold, but let's bring the heat in the webinar today. So ladies and gents, at this point, I want to invite my guests to put their cameras on. We're going to have fun today. Let's see who you are. We're going to start off with Kate. Kate, welcome. Good to have you. We're starting with the golden oldie. Please reintroduce yourself to our guests and tell us a little bit more, something maybe that we don't know that you are getting up to in this space.
Hi, Evodia. Thank you for having me. It's good to be back again. And just to introduce myself briefly, in addition to what you said, I'm very familiar, or I would like to believe very familiar with the students, especially the residents community, because I am the project lead for the residents workshops. So I work very closely with students and all the relevant RC academics in those spaces. I also offer workshops and other student webinars on success strategies through my project under the advising office, known as CALC. So that's the Central Academic Advising Learning Community. So for any student that just needs that sense of belonging, I'm that go-to person. I'm also just someone that enjoys having conversations like these, giving knowledge and learning myself as well. So I am engaged in a podcast, Unpacked with Kate, my own podcast, and I also am one of the hosts for the UFS Career Services Career Podcast. So I do a lot of talking, although I am an introvert, but I'm very excited for this conversation, and thank you again for having me.
Awesome, Kate, you've recently graduated. You've recently secured the grad. Tell us a little bit about that. What were you studying?
So I was doing my third qualification. I was doing the postgraduate diploma in higher education. And yes, that's what I graduated in. Very challenging qualification, like any other qualification. It's not easy to secure the grad. One thing I really learned, though, is patience. And really being kind to yourself, because it's initially a 2-year degree program, but I only managed to complete it in 3 years, which was something that was a first for me. But I think it also just shows that delay is never denial, and you just have to always keep your eye on the prize.
Come on, ladies and gents, if that's how we start, listen, if that is how we start, we're about to bring the house down. So I hope all of you are absolutely ready for that. So Kate, congratulations, and we're looking forward to the rest of the conversation. Now, ladies and gents, let's welcome our other senior advisor, Mr. Albert Bukreda. Mr. Albert, good to have you on the platform. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Evodia, for the warm welcome. I'd like also to extend my greetings to the participants. My name is Albert Mukwena. I'm based on the Qwaqwa campus. I'm a senior academic advisor. I'm responsible for the 2 faculties, which is nurse and education. And yeah, I've been in CTL for quite some time, more than a decade now, in different capacities. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here. This is my first experience on #SecureTheGrad, and I'm very, very excited, and I'm looking forward for those engagements and also challenging thoughts as well. Yeah, I think just briefly, that's what I can say. Maybe you want to know a little bit more about myself, what interests me. All right. I'm one person who really likes working with numbers. I'm not a statistician, but I've took it upon myself, to learn a certain skill, which is a demand in the market. Yeah, I'm very passionate about data analytics because now numbers speaks volumes, and also they do secure funding. That's one thing that I like about it. But also again, student voice, it does really, really matter, because student agency does inform certain practices that we need to take it forth so that we ensure that students feel part of the processes and they are at the core of any decision that is being taken.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Albert. So you're on the right track. I don't know why it's taken us so long to invite you to Secure the Grad, but we're excited that you are here. As Kate said, delay is never denial. So Albert, looking forward to having you on the platform. What did you study, just out of interest's sake?
Okay, I've studied, when I first arrived at UFS on the campus, I've enrolled in Bachelor of Commerce in General Management. So when I got to my second year, so accounting became a very big challenge. In my high school, I was the top achiever. But when I got to second year, so it becomes very challenging for me. So at that time, we never had any academic advisors on campus because I've studied, probably a long time ago. Yeah. And yeah, for me, so I just sit down and reflected to say, now, if I want to complete a qualification that might open doors for me, if I continue with what I'm currently studying, there is a possibility. In statistics, we say there's a probability of 0.5 on the yes and the no. So I've evaluated that, and I saw that 0.7 was that I was not going to be completing if I continue with that. So I spoke to the faculty officer, and they advised me that I can be able to change to Faculty of Humanities, but some of the measures that I was doing, they can be carried over and get credits on that one. So I've completed a Bachelor of Administration in Humanities with Industrial Psychology and Business Management. Yes.
Awesome. So, ladies and gents, one of the reasons why I asked is that you hear that it's possible to pivot. Although Albert studied a humanities degree, he's currently working in data analytics. So it's never too late to make a switch. Albert, looking forward to the conversation forward. Ladies and gents, last but not least, I'd like to welcome Bohlokwa Ranjat Hloka. Teacher Bohlokwa, welcome. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, just a sec. Well, hi everyone. My name is, can you guys see me?
Not yet, but let's give it some time. You can continue and we'll wait for your camera to go on.
Okay, while we're still waiting on that, my name is Bohlokwa Ranja, and I am currently a township educator. I like it when people mention that I'm a township educator because, yeah, the conditions I work under are quite, yeah. So, yeah, I'm a township educator, and part-time, I think a lot of people have seen my face a lot on socials. I love creating content in my spare time, and you can also say I also secured the grad in April, where I graduated with my bachelor's degree, honors degree in curriculum studies.
Congratulations for that. That's no easy qualification, I know for sure. So Bohlokwa, you create content. I have seen you're a big content creator. What has inspired you to, sort of traverse education and mix it a bit with what we'd maybe call a social media bug?
I think everybody that knows me will tell you I'm an extrovert. So it's channeling that energy into something that, gets the coins as well. And also one thing about me is that I cannot do one thing only. If I do one thing, I will fail at that one thing. So I need to get like another hobby and prioritize two things, and then I can do well in both. If I do only one thing, it's not going to go well. So I had to find a hobby, but also a hobby that also gets the coins. So content creation was one of them.
Absolutely, that is very interesting. So ladies and gents, remember those multiple streams of income. We're looking forward to really digging deep into your story and inspiring our students. Now, ladies and gents, just to our technical team, just please remember, if you can, while we get the conversation going, that we make sure that by the time we get to Bohlokwa's segment, that we'd be able to get her camera up and running. Now, let's get this conversation, and Kate, we're going to start with you. So we know this time of the year, year one has happened. For our seniors, you know, they've gone through semester one, and one or two things has happened. It has gone extremely well, or it didn't go according to the plan. So some things went well, some things didn't go well. Or A, for some people, maybe it's three options. For some people, it did not go at all, you know. So can you maybe talk to us, how can then students, those who have done well, continue building on this momentum? And also those who didn't do well, how can they pick themselves up and move forward? Can you maybe talk to us about that?
All right, Evodia. So because you asked about two different types of student scenarios or cases, I'm going to try and speak to both. So for the students, I'm going to start with the students that really did well and things really went well for them. Firstly, I think what's important, but this is now in cases of whether things went well for you or not, the most important thing I think to do before going into the second semester is to reflect. Because reflection is a very, very important practice. I think it really helps you to also declutter your mind to really figure out how to move forward. So because you can do well in the first semester and then second semester doesn't go as well as it happened or as it did in the first semester. So what's really, really important for every student at this current moment or in this current season or week, particularly because it's the first week of the academic program, is to reflect. For the students that did well, ask yourself what actually worked in the first semester. So if you're able to target and pinpoint the relevant practices or things that you did that assisted you to perform well, then it's important that you are able to recognize that. If it was going to your tutorials, then definitely note that as something that worked for you in the first semester, because it means you're going to have to keep continuing with attending your tutorials in the second semester. So note all those things that you did, the practices that you engaged in. If there's a service that you utilized that also assisted you, note that service as well, because you're going to have to keep continuing with seeking that service, whether it's just checking in with an advisor at CTL or even in your faculty, for instance. If you were able to get a conversation or an appointment with them in semester one, carry out and continue that relationship, because it also helps for a student or as a student to have someone that you can be accountable to, someone that really actually cares about your studying and your journey in general. Another thing is also very, very important is to note what if there's things that worked and things that assisted you, you have to look at what support you also got from those relevant offices. And I think that what will be very, very important is to also know that the second semester is very, very taxing. So even though things went well in semester one, second semester is a different ballgame. Why? It's shorter and the workload stays the same or it even increases for some students. So even if things went well for you in semester one, second semester, you'll probably have to keep the same energy, keep the same support, and keep the same strategies of success, but you're going to have to definitely adjust them because you don't have as much time as you did in semester one, and it's very different in semester two. So we don't also have a lot of holidays, public holidays, and the breaks in between where students can get away with catching up. So you definitely are going to have to adjust. If things really went well for you in semester one, semester two, keep the same energy but adjust. For a student who didn't do as well, or a student who really just feels like, I don't know what happened, but I made it to second semester, then you really will have to also, like I said, reflect what didn't work. And if you're able to tell yourself and be honest with yourself in the reflection process by saying, I need to be honest with myself. I didn't attend a lot of my classes. I couldn't meet a lot of my, assessment deadlines, whether it was tests, whether it was quizzes, whatever assessment you needed to do for the semester, then you're going to have to really dedicate your time to doing that. And if you're going to have, or if, for instance, there was a student I was with just in this week who said, they went through a really terrible personal experience. They lost a family member and that totally threw them off. They decided to just drop everything and just go home. And so they missed a lot of tests, missed a lot of assignments. So they did pass some of their modules, but failed other modules. And I think for me, it was very freeing when I realized or picked up that with this student realizing that, they didn't do well, they're honest and they knew that I didn't do well because I decided to drop everything, but there was a reason behind it. And it's because I lost someone close to me. So if things like that happen and things like that throw you off, because life does happen, just ensure that you communicate to your lecturers, communicate to your advisor as well. What is important about having an advisor, especially in the faculty or at CTL, is that we're literally that one person that will ensure that you still get some grace throughout the semester, whether it's getting an extension from your lecturer or even just making them understand that the student just has a lot on their plate. So capitalize on the connections and the support we have, because we've got a lot of support on campus and resources. So if things didn't go well, capitalize on the support and the resource. Communication is going to be very, very important to your lecturers and everyone that is around you. Also having people in your classes, even if it's just one person or two people that you can just rely on to keep you up to track, to hold you accountable, develop study groups. I know a lot of students, I was also one of those students, I know, and I'll always say, no, I study on my own, I learn better on my own. But with some modules, it just does not work. You need a community. And that's what my project also tries to address, that it's important to recognize that you need to make learning a community, and you learn better when you're with other people. So reflect a lot. Know your module guide also is going to be very, very important. So whether things went well for you or not, and especially if things didn't go well, if your module guide was not your best friend in semester 1, in semester 2, make it your best friend, because that will be your guide as to how you're going to really carry out your activities in the second semester, especially to know how to keep track of what is going to be required from you. And I think lastly is go see a CTL advisor, because you're definitely going to need it.
Listen, ladies and gents, you see why it's called Unpacked with Kate, because she literally unpacked it for us. Now I'm gonna switch a little bit over to Albert, because we also know that there are contextual differences on our campuses. So Albert, Kate has unpacked for us beautifully what one needs to do, particularly throughout the semester. Can you talk to us about what should students be aware of now that the semester starts? So now, right in the beginning, as the semester commences, what are things that they need to be aware of? And if you can also speak to us, particularly around the students who are starting on the Godwa campus.
Thank you, Evodia. I think Kate spoke very well. Yeah. So from my side, especially putting on the context, I think one thing that I normally, when I engage with students, is that they need to take stock for first semester, just to analyze things that went right, as Kate indicated, because it's very, very important to reflect on things that went well and which ones did not went well. And also you plan even before the second semester start. I think for me, that's normally I encourage students to say you plan ahead even before the second semester starts, because once second semester starts, you already have a plan in mind that how you're going to tackle the second semester going forward. So in that case, I normally encourage students to say they need to invest time and effort in their studies, because some of them you find that students do differ with qualities that contribute towards their success. But if you look at the study habits, successful students, those are very successful, the habits that they possess, you will find that very, very clear that the first one is that they invest time and effort in the academics, which really have a huge benefit at the end, that you get the marks that you want to get at the end. But taking it a little bit further in that, so I normally say that, of course, all of us, we have long-term goals, but you need to have a mid-term goal, and then you need to break it down into a small terms, so that, because it's just, it's a stepping stone to a bigger one, so that you try to say, okay, what I want to accomplish on the assignments for me to get a certain percentage. Once you did that, you have a plan and you have the goals, then after you wrote, you get the marks, you go back and reflect, because reflection should be real. It should be a reality situation for you. And to say that, okay, my aim was to get 80% maybe at the end of the semester to pass with, but for the first semester test, I got maybe 30%, then I need to reevaluate my planning as well to say now, how am I supposed to get there? Would it be possible or not? Hence, I'm saying it's very, very important to reflect back in the previous semester to say, okay, when I was faced in a similar situation, how did I go about this? Was it the result fruitful for me for first semester? Did I still reach my goal, or I just was under the goal that I've set? So it's very, very important for them to do that. And also the long term, we know that everybody wants to get the qualification, to get a distinction and things like that. But for me, it's very important to start small before you get to the bigger picture, because you need to be able to understand exactly where you are. Are you investing enough time? Are you attending classes? Are you going to tutorials? Are you also seeking help from support services that are provided on campus? It's very, very important because most of the students, when they come in the last minute to say, I need an appointment with a psychologist, only just to get a letter to say that, because they already seen that they are facing exclusion. So they want something that they can use as evidence to support, to say, nah, but I've been going here. But was the intention pure to seek help or just to cover your tracks so that you can be given a chance? So those are very tough discussions that we have with students, just to be realistic about that, And yeah, most of our students on the Kotka campus, I think we do see that they don't really plan ahead, because it's one thing that I've noticed when I engage with most of the students, they don't really plan ahead. And one thing that they've put out there was that they spend most of the time on social media, which was very, very concerning for me to say, you need to know why you are here. And this matters for you because exactly why you are here, you want to get your qualification, and also in the same process that you pass very well, so that you can seek opportunities on campus, so that when you exit the system, you already have the working experience, because we know that in real world they want experience. If you don't have that, it becomes very challenging for you to be able to get hired. Yes, so I'll just conclude by saying that goals do really help them a lot, and also they need to be enthusiastic about their life and get motivated. And also flexibility, I think, is something that they should be able to practice, try to balance. I know in UFS as module, at the first year, they normally teach you ABC model, and some of the students, they don't understand the concept behind that. And I also bring that in our discussion, whether you're second or third year. So I'm saying A, is your priority. B, it's something that is a must that you need to do, like bathing, sleeping, run errands, cleaning. And C is not that something that you need to invest a lot of time. In a day, you can put 2 to 3 hours, because are the things that we tend, as students, that's where most of the students tend to spend more time on, where they're supposed to spend a little time and invest more on the A, where it's all about the academics for them to be successful at the end. Thank you.
I love the ABC model. So I think I need to apply it as a student myself to see. Otherwise, we're not going to finish this master's degree. So I just really want to reiterate what Albert said. And I love that, Albert, because it's something that many of us learned in UFS 101, or those of you UFSS, and that we do the cram, pass, forget. What do they call it? The CFP model. And I love that you are introducing the simple, the basics, the ABCs. So how are you spending your time? So Albert, you spoke about quite a number of students coming to speak to and consult with you as an academic advisor. I know some of the students on our platform might not know the difference between an academic advisor, which is a central advisor, and a curriculum advisor, which is those advisors that they see in the faculty. Can you talk to us about the difference between the two and what role they play?
Okay, so I'll start with the curriculum advisor. Those are the advisors that are based within the faculties. So just to make it more practical so that everybody can understand. So when you start with your registration, you see somebody that's going to tell you which modules you need to take to register for you to progress within the year or a semester that you are within. So we call them curriculum advisors. Some of them, they say it's faculty officers, but their roles are muchly the same, because at some point you find that the program director as well, they also fill that role of advising during that registration. So there are well-trained staff members which are there to guide and support students and assist them with the registration processes on how to register modules, how to choose your majors and minors, and also they help to check with the credits that you have if you are in the right space for you to be able to graduate, because sometimes students left certain modules behind, And the thing that say, I'll see it the following year, but when you get there, you forgot to register that module. So when comes graduation time to say, but I'm not graduating because you never consulted with the curriculum advisors to tell you to say you still need to take this module as part of your qualification for you to be able to complete. So their role is very, very critical in ensuring that students are supported and also they are able to graduate. And for central academic advisor, which is us in CTL, myself and Kate and other colleagues as well, our job is it's very interesting to say. It is very, very interesting. So our role is to support students just to ensure that, especially those students who are undecided about the programs that they want to pursue, I think on the Kwakwa campus, sorry, just to mention Kwakwa a lot because I'm more into the context of Kwakwa. You find that when students come to the system, they applied for BSc, for example, but this is full, they end up doing BCom or Bachelor of Administration, which is B-Admin. But when you have the discussion with the student, you do understand that the student is not happy where at that moment. And also they are not really, really engaging or loving the cause. So it also automatically, motivation goes down, and also it affects students' effort in putting more effort because it's something that they don't enjoy, which is not aligned with their career aspirations. So it's where we step in as academic advisors to evaluate with the students to say, okay, fine, at this moment, you decided to be here, but what are the possible ways for you to apply in a different qualification so that you can study something which you enjoy, which is aligned with your aspirations, as well as your academics, because remember that the finishing of academic advising is all about students' interest, experiences, their journey, as well as their what you call the aspirations as well. So our role is also very, very critical, as I've said, and we do here and there do curriculum advice and credit checks, but we explicitly inform students after we do that because we only rely on the rule book on the system on the university website. So sometimes changes do happen, but you find that certain changes were not communicated with the academic advisors, but the curriculum advisors are aware of certain changes that have been made. So we do refer students to the curriculum advisors for the final say. Yes, of course, we are there to assist, but there's a certain limitations or roles that we need to play. And then from there, we do the correct referral for students to be able to be assisted further. And maybe lastly, my host is that, so at some point, it's very difficult for students when you have the discussions, but what I like is that the support is there for them on campus and it's well established so that they can be able to get help at any time going forward. Yes, now, and we also provide them with study strategies. That's how we differ with the curriculum advisors. So because in the faculty, they deal more with the curriculum. So us, we're a little bit more about holistical support of students to ensure that they've been referred and also they have resources that they need on campus, and also try to create that sense of belonging for students. If you recall very well, in 2020, the survey that came through was that most of the students felt disconnected to the institution because it was the online platform. So that's why we're trying to come in, even though that was the issue. We tried as much as we can to ensure that students are still being supported and feel like somebody's there to care and look after them to ensure that they do succeed at the end.
I think that's very, very important. And I think it makes a very clear distinction of when to see who. So one of the things I want to ask, and I think I saw a question in the chat to say, but academic advisors only show up later in my journey. When would you say students need to start consulting with either of the advisors, both curriculum and academic and the central advisors?
I think in my experience, I would say even before you become a first year student, so that you have your ducks in the row, so that at least you know before you even enter the system, you know exactly what things that you need to know, the information from the faculty and also from the academic advisor, because it brings me back to the issue that I've said that most of our students on the Cloudcore campus, they're studying qualification, which was not their first preference, because that was only the space that was available. So they didn't want to go back and sit at home. So they took the space. And then along the way in the semester, it becomes very challenging for them to be, to pass in the way that they've been doing in matric. And also we make it very clear explicitly to say matric results and the university, it's a totally different setting. The time that you invest in matric, you need to put at least 2 more hours on the university side to ensure that you stay on track. So I'll say that even before you get to the system, if you're already in the system, see your academic advisor tomorrow. Set up an appointment so that you can see and check how far you are with everything that you need to do and what kind of support that you need that you can get from the advisor. If we can't really help you, we know people that can be able to help you with the problem that you're facing.
Thank you so much, Albert. That's been very informative. So to our audience, whether you are watching us live or you're watching the recording, remember that it's never late nor early to see an advisor. So the earlier you go, the clearer the road becomes. And as Albert said, and which I love, is advisors are there to make sure that course doesn't just chow, or, as the students would say, umgoyo, that you don't go goishi all the time. That is actually also enjoyable. University is hard, but it's also meant to be a journey that is really rewarding and a journey that you would forever remember. Guys, now I thoroughly enjoyed my university journey. Undergrad was some of the best years for me, but also postgrad. And talking about that, it segues me, Kate, maybe to you, to talk to us about, some of the students are final years, they're in their final year, and they're trying to prepare themselves for postgraduate studies or to make that transition to postgraduate studies. How do they transition, and where would they get this type of information?
Thank you, Evodia. So with the applications already open currently, every year of their academic year, applications will always start on the 1st or open on the 1st of April. So as soon as the 1st of April starts, students need to know that that's when they need to start looking out on the university's website for all the postgraduate related information that they need. So obviously, not all, you won't find all the information on one page on the website. So it'll depend on the faculty that you want to go into. It'll depend on the department specifically that you want to go into. So some faculties don't have all the information in a booklet. With some, you'll find it's still outdated, but what is always current and relevant is the contact details of the relevant person you need to contact in the faculty. And there's nothing wrong. I'm currently looking into also applying for postgrad again next year. So I'm also a student, or starting the journey of becoming a student again myself. And what I do a lot is I spend a lot of the time on the website. I go specifically under the Faculty of Education, and I look at the different programs and the specializations that are there for masters, and I look at who's the relevant person I can contact, whether it's sending them an email or giving them a call and just finding out, I see there's a specialization on this. Who can I talk to, or how can I get an appointment with this person? And they're always efficient, respond, even though it's waiting sometimes for a week in response, because you need to be mindful of the fact that most of our academic staff or lecturers were on leave. So taking that into account as well. And sometimes even just, because sometimes students will rely on communicating only online. Nothing hurts with taking a walk to your faculty and just trying to see your lecturer, for instance, and just asking them if they're the relevant person that you can speak to on all the postgraduate information and opportunities that exist for you. I think what I pick up a lot, and I also read it in our chats now, is students always have a challenge of humanizing the lecturer. So they're scared to reach out to the lecturer because they think, this person is just going to be like, nope, I don't have time for you, or I'm not supposed to assist you. But these people are there for your journey, and these people are there for you to succeed. So you are more than welcome to reach out to one of your lecturers If you can't get to the relevant person, then they know who the relevant person to speak to is, who has the information, and especially who has the experience in that particular specialization you want to go into. So I would say students start there, start on the UFS website, and really just look at whether or not you can find that information. And I'm seeing Tembile also saying most of the time they don't have time for you. That's true. Sometimes, in peak seasons during marking or whatever, especially during test week, you find that the lecturers are busy, but that's where we come in. Because we work so closely with the faculties, you go to your CTL advisor, whether on the Kwakwa campus or at the Bloemfontein campus. We also have that connection to them, and we can get the relevant information, because also part of our work includes, as a CTL advisor, having career conversations with our students. So if for instance, most of the students I've been seeing now in education don't want to just stand in a class and teach. They're looking for more, whether it's going into the curriculum management or going into the leadership in education. And I'm also, stretched because I have to do research and try and see what other opportunities exist outside of only going into a classroom and teaching with a Bachelor of Education. So students can also come in and stretch us, make us work for our money, literally, and make us do the research that will help you to get to where you want to be. So if you're preparing for postgrad, the Center for Graduate Support is also a very, very important office in seeking out that information and the resources that you need, especially when it comes to funding. Someone in the chats also asked how I was able to fund all my 3 qualifications. And with my undergraduate, unfortunately, my parents had to pay from their own pocket. But when I got to my final year, NSFAS was able to assist me because then it was a bursary. And in my honors, that's when I moved to the UFS. So I was able to use the UFS honors bursary that they offer. And I wouldn't have known about that had I not gone to the postgraduate office, but at the time it was referred to as. Had I not gone to that office then, because I knew my parents couldn't afford to pay for another qualification. And even though it was just them or the bursary covering just my tuition fees, that eased a lot of load from my parents' pocket. So even if it's just covering your tuition, seek out all the funding opportunities you can get from the Center for Graduate Support. They also, and another thing that students don't do is check their emails. Your student emails will always have, a lot of communication from the Center for Graduate Support, whether it's about workshop writing, getting the writing skills that you need, whether it's doing research, and especially when it comes to funding opportunities and scholarships that you can get from the different funders. So I think there's really, really a lot of resources, Evodia, and there's a lot of information. Our students are just really not that patient when it comes to reading and just finding that information. But that's what we're here for. My job is reading a lot so that I can be able to give you the relevant information that you need. So utilize us and make us work for our money, guys.
Listen, it's almost month end, so let us run for that bug. Kate, I think that was very informative. And as you can see in our chat, our team is busy putting down the necessary information. Please do note it down, do a copy and paste quickly. But don't worry, all this information will be available on the recording, alternatively via SecureTheGrad's different platforms on social media, and you can find us on Blackboard under the Success portal. Now, let us wrap up our conversation with both you and Albert for now, before we move to Bohlokwa. And I want to ask a very important question. One of the things we know that a lot of researchers, particularly in the medical fraternity, warned us about post-COVID is that we would see a tsunami when it comes to mental health. And I mean, they attributed many things, the stress, the lockdown, the implication of lockdown or the aftermath of lockdown, but also the multiple challenges that it would present to the economy. And we know that with the economy, there was a lot of joblessness. So a lot of our students not only losing their parents, loved ones, caregivers, but those who are supporting them financially. And we know that this tends to put a lot of stress on our students. Obviously, the research that we've done with our students have told us that Some of the reasons why we struggle or we drop out is for financial reasons. Therefore, I have to work multiple jobs just to get that buck coming in so I can pay for my studies. Or I'm working so hard that I make sure that I don't lose my NSFAS funding or my bursary, whatever bursary that is. Now that brings me to my question, Kate. How can students balance their academic life and manage their time well? Albert spoke about those ABCs. Let's hear from you.
So, Evodia, when it comes to rest and just balancing and making sure that you're well as a student, firstly, I think we need to acknowledge that that is a very difficult thing to do, because a lot of the students either tend to, if you're resting, you overdo it, and if you're not resting, then you rest as well, or you don't do it as much as you need to. So you can't. It's also very, I think, difficult to strike a balance. But I think what students can do, and that what's going to be very, very important going into this semester, is to be very intentional about the seasons when they will need to rest, or the moments when they'll need to rest during the academic semester. For instance, I think one thing that always shocks the students is how much time they have for the semester in order for them to do well, or in order for them to engage in the academic activities. And for the second semester, I was actually sitting and counting this morning, we only have 14 weeks of academic activities. So that's your classes, tutorials, tests, everything, all of that before exams. We only have 14 weeks. And that excludes this, that includes this week already. So with taking that into account, students will also have to be very familiar with the academic calendar and look at when they'll have their test weeks and when they'll actually then have weeks where it'll just be classes and they can maybe just get away with having, moments for themselves where they can engage in little practices of self-care. So when we talk about rest, we talk about two types of rest, which I've learned, or I'm still learning to become very intentional about, and that's active rest. And then we also have passive rest. So there'll be seasons, or there'll be moments in the semester where students will need to engage in active rest. And I think it also just explains itself. Active rest is where you're resting, but you're still engaging in a bit of, slight activity, some movement. You still go to the gym, for instance. You still walk around campus or in your neighborhood, wherever you stay. You still engage in your classes, attending tutorials, group assignments. So you're resting, but you're not totally switching off. So you're able to engage in little practices that still keep you involved and still keep you up to date with your academic activities. And like I said, you already by now know in this week, I've got assessments, submissions, and deadlines. So you can't afford to passively rest in that week. You need to actively rest because you still need to keep busy. You need to meet all your deadlines. Then in a week where it's more quiet, you only attending classes and don't have a lot of back-to-back assignments or tests to prepare for, then you can engage in a bit of passive rest where you sleep, you switch off. If you're taking a weekend to not engage in any academic activities, you're sleeping. You are eating well. You are literally switching off. You're not on social media, which is very hard for the students, but something that really, really makes it, worse for our students, and especially in terms of our mental health challenges, is if you know that you're burnt out and you don't have a lot of energy and you can't focus in class. And during the weekend, instead of resting and trying to really pour into yourself and do things that you enjoy to get back that momentum or get back that vitality for life, you're now on social media and you're dedicating so much time to the screen or a screen, or it's being on your laptop watching series, but it's not really regulating you and it's not really enhancing or equipping you or giving you the vitality that you need. So going out in nature, for instance, and for someone like me, it's also difficult because I'm very lazy, I must share. So I don't walk, I don't run, I don't do anything. I just want to sit. But sometimes you need to get out of your comfort zone, take a walk, breathe in the air outside, because that really, goes into your memory and into your mind. And it really just helps you to have a new feel for your life, and you're able to get on all those nutrients and the hormones that you need to really just make sure you're recharged again. So really knowing when you need to actively rest and passively rest will be very, very important. Planning as well is going to be very, very important, because if you then know what your semester looks like, every student that comes into my office, I give them a calendar with all the months from July until October, because they need to literally live by a calendar. And I tell them, you can't make it throughout the semester without planning. And that's why the discipline becomes important, but the discipline starts with the little things. So when you wake up in the beginning of your day, what do you do first? If you don't have an idea what do you do, or what the first thing you do is when you wake up, then already that's going to set you up for failure. But plan little things, and from just how your day looks like, then going to how your week looks like, then going to how your month looks like. So breaking down your goals into smaller, those smaller chunks that you can really handle doesn't also get too overwhelming for you. So take it as it comes, a day at a time. But rest is really, really important. But don't overdo it and don't underdo it, especially when it's going to be those seasons where you require to show up as your best self.
Wow, Kate, you're a powerhouse, okay? And I'm learning for myself, because I'm very guilty, similar to our students. I live a very, very busy life, multiple jobs. I'm a mom, and I'm involved. I volunteer, so I do quite a lot. And I can tell you, I never used to be, so I don't really do TV, because I know some people will binge on TV. So I don't really do TV. And guys, I must say, my guilty pleasure has been social media. So what I've done this year, I tend to reward myself. So I will delete my Instagram app. I think my team was wondering, why is she not posting the webinar? So I would delete my Instagram app, and I'll just go on the browser so that it's not easily accessible. Because what I've seen is if the app is active, then the fingers just automatically. I've had to delete Instagram. I've had to delete LinkedIn. I've had to delete, what's the other thing I do a lot? I think those are my two. And I've actually, because I realized when I looked at my stats, so I love stats. I would look at my stats on my phone to see where have I spent most of my time. And ladies and gents, you will not believe, I would spend about 6 hours on social media in a period of 2 to 3 days. And for some, it's not a lot, but for me who have limited time, that is quite intense. And I'm thinking that's 6 hours I could have spent going to the gym, taking a walk with the kids, and exactly those things that Kate highlighted, guys, and you feel so much at rest. And it really helps to revitalize that motivation. Kate, we're going to circle back to you, because I think there's quite a number of important things. You spoke, both you and Albert. We'll be circling back, and I'd like us to talk a little bit around how do you help students who are undecided to think about, particularly around postgrad studies. Some of us just wanted to finish this thing, but we're thinking it's not really what I want to do work-wise, career-wise, so how do I transition to postgrad studies? Let's park that question for now and move over to Bushokwa. Kate and Albert get paid to tell us the things they tell us. So we want to hear from someone that is not currently on the UFS payroll about, how do you navigate the second semester so that you are successful? So what would you say in your experience?
Firstly, thank you that I'm not speaking from a professional view, because that one sounds like there's a procedure that we need to follow. But I think one of the things that I've seen works for me is that you need to reflect. You need to reflect on how the first semester went. I know when I started with my postgrad, there was a lot of adjustment that I had to do, because postgrad in education is nothing compared to undergrad. You now need to talk the research language. There's certain adjustments that you now need to make here and there, how you draft an email. So all of those adjustments, So when I got to the second semester, I was like, okay, let's see what worked in the first semester. My supervisor is I had a very close relationship with my supervisor. So I'd ask to say, I've reflected on A, B, and C. quickly tell me, is there something else that you feel like I did not do well in the first semester? And he would gladly say, yeah, you need to improve on the grammar that you use in your proposal, you know. Secondly is, what is expected of you in the second semester? Because I'm a planner, so, and also I'm a perfectionist, so I want to know what is exactly expected of me in the second semester. What are my due dates, and when is everything due? Because of content creation and work, I need to know that there will be busy weeks, and I need to know when are these busy weeks, you know, so that I know that I prepare well and I'm able to navigate well throughout the second semester. And then lastly, believe it or not, support group, eh? Like, get that someone who's also in the same field as you. You guys are in the same class, and just ask them, like, dude, you know, it's nice to know that there's someone who's going exactly through what you're going through. You know, it makes you feel like, okay, I'm not alone in this. So yeah, that is steps that I think that are quite important to follow in ensuring your success in the second semester. Reflect, support group, as well as what is expected of you in the second semester.
So, Bohlokwa, you sound like the perfect student, okay? The reflector, the planner, the consultant. But we also know, even as a perfect student, there are some highs and lows, those really challenging times. Can you talk to us about some of the biggest challenges that you faced in your undergrad or postgraduate journey, and what did you do to overcome them?
Okay, so I will start with the current one, which is postgrad. So earlier this year, I enrolled for my master's. Very excited. Honors went well. I got a distinction for my research proposal. So everything was like, yeah, no, we're going, you know. And then I decided to continue with the same supervisor I had. So we were in talks to say, okay, let's talk about research topics. And then I had a topic, and then I started drafting my proposal already. So my proposal was ready. And then we had like a faculty engagement. And then in the faculty engagement, we broke down to small groups where we would then present our ideas that we want to focus on for the year. Can you believe that the panel was like, Icona, ma'am, your topic is not on. That time I'm like, I've spent hours on this thing, and now you're telling me I need to go back, and not just like go and fix A, B, and B. Scratch the whole thing out. You have to start over. And I realized that in that moment, I had never dealt with rejection because everything was going well. Angeti, from undergrad to postgrad, honors, you know. So this is like the first time I get rejected. And it's like, why didn't you guys reject me in honors? Why in masters? I thought I had this thing going, you know. And then they rejected the topic and said, no, you need to start afresh. And I got it, because one of the things that you need in postgrad is that you need to go there with an open mind, because your topic will change a million times. Even once you have the perfect topic, there will still be adjustment until the final submission. So yeah, so after the rejection, I did not take it well. I'm not gonna lie and say, yeah, I took it well. No, I think I cried for 3 days. My mom was checking up on me. And one thing about me, I do have great support around me. So my mom was checking up on me. I called my friends and I'm like, guys, it's not going well. And I actually do want to quit, because rejection, I don't handle it well. And then I just knew that I had to go back to the drawing board and realize another thing is that for the career field that I'm in, getting your accolade is not as important as gaining experience. So I only learned that the hard way also. And that I now had to go back to the drawing board to say, okay, if I get my honors, what does my honors mean in the field that I'm in? And if I get this master's degree, what is it going to mean? What opportunities are available for me in this journey? And also, the other thing that I struggled a lot with is imposter syndrome. So we all know that you want to sound like your supervisor, you want to sound like someone you admire on the panel, you know. So you get there and you're like, you know, maybe I'm not so well, I'm not doing so well. Look how she sounds. Not realizing that for them, it took experience to be there. And also, in conversations that I had with my colleagues, it was like, you realize when you start talking with people and engaging with people that there's enough pieces for everyone. The pie is big enough, everybody can get a chunk. So don't get so fixated in wanting to sound exactly like a certain professor who's on the panel with you. You know, it's okay to off ramp a bit and see where it leads. And then lastly, one of the things that I think I struggled with was when I adjusted from being a student and going into the working environment and then enrolling immediately for my honors. That was, the balance was not balancing, because I think I spent the whole first semester running on 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, because I did not plan, I did not reflect, I was just winging it as it comes. And yeah, at some point I experienced burnout. And I had to go and realize, how can I improve in the second semester, you know, because already at that time I felt like I need to teach kids, and I teach grade 12, so there's a lot of admin there going on. And also now with my honors as well, there are deadlines as well that I need to meet. So imposter syndrome, it does get to us, to a lot of us. Rejection, you will get rejected a lot of times, trust me. But you know what, it's how you pick up yourself the next day and say, you know what, I got this. Ain't nobody like me, but I can also contribute in certain ways.
Absolutely love that. And I think you're highlighting quite a lot of things. We do have people who are naturally high achievers. Yes. And I think many people that have come to university are people that often have not failed before. And guys, university will hurt you. I think that's what I'm getting from Boshoka's story. It will hurt you. The grad will hurt you, okay? But I think what you're highlighting that's very important, Boshoka, in your story is the essence of just stepping back and analyzing again, why am I in this again and where am I going? And with that, I want to ask, what steps did you take to establish a routine for yourself now that you got knocked down? And particularly, you know, I like that interesting sort of swing from still being a student, then getting into postgrad studies, but also taking up your professionals, which is teaching. And teaching a very critical component. Grade 12s are a difficult bunch, okay? So how did you establish that routine that created productivity for you?
Okay, so thank you, Miss E. So after the burnout, I went to my principal and I asked, like, because remember initially I did not even take leave. So I would go to work, after work, take a nap, and then go into and work on my submission, my student submissions, and then go to sleep again. But then eventually I experienced burnout. So I went to the principal and I asked her to say, listen, I know I haven't come clean, but I'm a student. I'm also a student, because, you know, when you are in an environment and you're like, but I'm the only one, really, no one else is studying. Can I even say that I'm studying? Is it allowed to say that I'm studying? So I went to my principal one day crying. I was crying. And I was like, it's not working out. And I need to find out, like, what leave options do I have? And then we started discussing that to say, you are entitled to leave. No, leave is a privilege, apparently. You can take leave. You can take leave for your studies, and this is the amount of days and all the documents that you need to supply. And also, in my routine, because I work during the day, I knew that whenever I get home, I'm tired. So I would eat, sleep, make sure that by 5 o'clock I'm in bed, so that at 11 I get up, and then I'm up until the next day. then I go to work. So I'd survive on like 6 to 5 hours of sleep, and that worked perfectly. And then also planning my due dates, to know that certain weeks I will need to mark and submit, certain weeks I will have to draft assignments, submit a proposal, submit something for the university, and also when I started working, which was in 2021, the university, the residences were undergoing like transformation, a lot of transformation processes undergoing there. So then the unit was like, hey, we need you. So I was doing that as well. I was mentoring primes as well at that time. So there was quite a lot on my plate. So once I knew about the leave options that were available, it meant that I could then prioritize that certain days I just do this. On certain weeks I will do that. Yeah. And also I love breathers. Like I will take a breather. I think I overcompensate myself with a breather. Like I will say, yeah, I worked so hard. Today was such a hard day. And then you realize, even today is even difficult. Tomorrow it would be more difficult. So discipline, I had to incorporate discipline as well to say, okay, a day rest, sharp. The next day, let's go and push.
I think that's really awesome. Bohloka, as we wrap up the conversation with you, you've gone through 2 iterations of preparing for the postgrad qualification. So moving to your honors and then moving into your masters. I want us to take a step back to when you were in your final year. You were quite busy. You were prime, you were busy with transformation.
Yeah.
The whole NJ van der Merwe to Lehakwe, and that was a serious time and a very critical point for you. How did you prepare for your postgraduate studies, and how would you advise our audience today, to start preparing for getting into their postgrad studies?
The most important question that I've learned in postgrad is defining your why. Why do you want to study? Why do you want to study what you want to study? So the why is important. And also deciding on a program that boils into your passion, something you're passionate about. Because after a bad assignment, your passion will still be like, no, but you know what, we got this in the bag, So deciding on a program, because I knew for sure that I do not want to study. I like leadership, but I don't want to be telling people how to be leaders. So I knew that I can't do anything leadership related. What I was passionate about is how information in the classroom gets transformed and how the new millennials are learning. That for me, then I knew that curriculum was the way to go. So that is how important it is that you start defining and deciding on the program that boils into your passion as an individual. Then it is defining your why. Why do you want to do it? What does it mean? And why? Because even your supervisors will ask you, why do you want to study what you want to study? It's a very critical question to ask yourself. And lastly, guys, you must read. Postgrad, preparing for postgrad and undergrad. Undergrad in education, different ball game, because in your final year, you're getting induction on how to best equip you to be an educator. There isn't like a mini year where they're like, okay, in case you decide to do your postgrad, this is what you can expect to happen. It's like you move 1 step, 10 steps further. You now need to adjust in terms of what is expected of you in your postgrad, So in my postgrad, you have to read. You really have to read, because there'll be hours where you find finding a topic that you're passionate about boils down to the information that you're feeding yourself. So if you're reading more, you'll be able to identify the loops and the gaps, because you don't want to sound like somebody else who has done the work before. And also, like I said before, come there with an open mind. Postgrad requires you to be open-minded, because a lot of things will change, and your supervisors will make adjustment. And just remember that sometimes if they attack, it's really not the attack is imposed to you as an individual, it's on your work, So don't say, I'm not good enough. What I've presented is not good enough. So yeah.
And Bohloka, so lastly, I'm sure you didn't just wake up being brilliant at knowing your story, okay, and knowing how to navigate that. What resources or support systems did you utilize in the institution that could really help our audience today?
Okay, so the first thing is build a relationship with your supervisor, because they are there to guide you. So the first thing was, once a supervisor was assigned to me, I was like, I'm gonna send you messages, okay? If I'm not sure about anything, I'm gonna ask you, okay? So I asked my supervisor a lot of questions, and through that, I learned that, first of all, you're going to learn that once you've decided on a program that you want to study, you then start reading. But once you start reading, it's very difficult for you to put everything that you've read into writing. So learning to write like other professionals in your field, you know. So in a seminar, I learned that download Grammarly, because it will help you a lot with your grammar mistake, because English is not it's not our mother tongue. So you have to ensure that you get the Grammarly download so that it assists you. And also library services. And CTL as well. Library services and CTL work like a bomb. Like the previous speaker said, I will make you run for your money. I will annoy you, because I also want to, to be great at the end of the day. And also just building a good network systems, so that in case you decide to change your mind, because sometimes you go there with the idea that you want to study this, it might change. So building a great network system means that you can easily tap into something that somebody has done, and you're able to engage with that person. So I think at the time that I had left, I made sure that I have connections. You see, even today, I'm connected. Someone might say, oh yeah, you're that girl who was speaking on, so building a good network system is one thing that I also utilized, and also going to the faculty for advice. And in the institution, your job, you go to your employer and you ask about the questions that if you decide to follow this journey, what opportunities and what resources are available. Example, I learned that I could then go to bursary. That's how I learned about the Department of Education bursary.
Such a pearl of wisdom right there. Bohlokwa, this has been amazing, absolutely amazing to hear your passion for research. I think a lot of us are just like, research, postgrad studies.
I'm there as well. I do speak nice, but I'm there as well. I'm also there.
The passion comes through for us. And I think that's exactly what students need beginning of the semester. Some passion to feed off, especially if it didn't go as planned. It can be demoralizing. As you said, you feel rejected and you feel like your ideas are rejected and you are rejected in the process. Before I let you go, and before we move to our Q&A, I also want to say to our audience, we are transitioning our Q&A segment. I saw the questions that have been coming in, and thank you so much to our lovely guests that have been answering the questions. So those of you who want to ask your questions, you can start getting your hands up in the meantime so that we queue your questions. And Bohlokwa, before we move to the Q&A segment, you led a very busy life as a student. You were RC, and then you became Prime, and then you were studying, and I mean, you were a student. So you're not just let's just scrape through, we okay with 50 type of student. You've been very diligent in how you've stewarded your journey as a student. And quite frankly, you've had quite an active life, a social life, How did you balance all of that? And what advice would you give to our students, particularly our student leaders?
Okay. So the first thing is, when you decide to take on a role, you decide on the role that you want to take, right? And then you also need to start deciding, because the first important question that I'm always chasing the bag. So if there's money is motivation. And then I also need to know, in my role, what is expected of me and how does it link into the field that I'm studying? So I only learned later that, you know, the residence leadership space prepared me for work, because now I can successfully host a full-on event, contact suppliers, communicate with various stakeholders, make sure everybody is on the same page. And that is something that I learned during my undergrad. So in terms of balance for me, like I said in the beginning, that if I focus my energy on one thing, I promise you I don't do well in it. So I knew already that I need to, when this one is going, then I can say, yeah, at least yeah, we're doing well, you see. So then it's like motivation to say, yeah, let's do well in both, you know. So that is how I create the balance for me, is that I know myself, I know what I'm capable of, and I know that I can't do one thing. If I do one thing, I'm gonna fail at it. So I need to make sure that at least I'm using my talents and my skills to ensure that I take a breather. And also finding something you like. You have to like deciding on a hobby, not a hobby, but a side hustle, requires you to really think about what is it that you love doing, you know. And one of the important things why I created a YouTube channel was so that people out there, when I started, there are questions that I wanted to ask and I couldn't ask anyone at certain points, you know. So finding out that let me create a platform where people can engage with me and ask me questions so that I can be that older sister. But for me, I create a balance in literally being busy. I'm a busy bug. I want to keep busy. Just keep me busy and then I won't irritate you.
Thank you so much, Roshoka. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now moved into our Q&A segment. And at this point, I'm going to ask that our technical team enables Babalo Masilo's microphone. Babalo, please get ready as our team enables your microphone. So let's kick off. Babalo, if you're ready, let's kick off with your question. Remember to unmute your microphone. Babalo, are you able to hear us? Okay. On our side, it does show that your microphone has been... Okay. Adelia, you want to ask? Let's move to Adelia. Ladies and gents, or technical team, if you can please activate Adelia Chauke. I'll do it on my side, and then we can activate Donald as well. Adelia, your microphone should be on. Just unmute it from your side.
Okay. Am I audible?
You are audible. What's your question?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask, in terms of applying for postgrad, what exactly sets you apart from other candidates, more specifically in programs that require you to write motivational letters? Because I feel like we are allowed to participate in alternative activities on campus or are doing academically well. So what exactly will set me apart from a student who also do extracurricular activities and is also doing well in terms of academics? Thank you.
Thank you, Adelia. Good question. So we're firstly going to take the first round of questions, and then if our guest speakers can indicate which question they can take, but by also putting their hands up or just indicating in the chat so that it's easy to navigate. Donald, if you're ready, you can go for it. Donald, I can see your microphone is on, but I unfortunately cannot hear you. Let's try Babalo while we wait for Donald. Babalo, let's check if you unmute, if you're able to hear. Okay, while we wait for them, Esihle, you can go for it. You can unmute your microphone.
Okay, thank you. I have a online blog or / magazine for students, and I was wondering what resources can I utilize on campus to get help with that? Maybe a guest edit from someone.
Great. Let's also hear. Okay, I see Kate will take one of our questions. Donald, let's try. Thank you,
Yes,
SK. You
am I
can go
audible?
for your question. You are audible.
Oh, okay. So I've heard Miss Ranja, she was talking about balancing her work and also school. So I was asking, how was she able to do that? And in terms of our families, I for one, I'm really struggling in making the decision. Can I go to the postgrad because the situation at home and you want to further your studies, and then now they're looking forward to you so that you come back and work for them, all of that. So I want to know, how did she manage to deal with that? And yeah, to where she is right now, how did she balance? Yeah, something like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we're going to take those two questions. So the first question, Kate, you said you want to take that question for us.
Okay, so Vodi, I'll answer the first question, and that was just related to what sets you apart when applying for postgraduate studies, and especially for those programs that require you to write a motivation. So I know in the beginning when I also started applying for postgrad, I would just Google, how do you write a motivational letter? But you don't really get all the answers from Google, and I think there isn't really a clear-cut answer. Because we're all unique. But I think the best place to start is really looking at the graduate attributes of the institution, because then you get a really good picture of, as a graduate from completing your undergraduate qualification, what is the faculty or whatever department you're going to for postgrad expect that you need to be able to have, as a graduate. So what is your what are you bringing to the department, or what is it that you're bringing into the faculty? So I always talk about looking at the technical skills and the soft skills that you possess, because the technical skills, they know for a fact, by virtue of you being a graduate, you know how to do statistics or how to look through numbers and all of that, because you have your accounting qualification or you have your stats qualification. So the technical part of that is always sorted. But one thing we always overlook are the soft skills that actually are required for you not only to do well as a postgrad student, but also in the world of work. How you communicate, whether or not you can articulate yourself well. So doing a lot of writing is also very, very important. Ensuring that you're able to engage in, a lot of the students hate group work and public speaking and oral assessments, but those things really make a difference in preparing you for being able to sit in front of a panel in your postgrad studies and defend your research and defend whatever it is that you're trying to explore and make a difference in. So seeking a lot of opportunities where you have to stand in front of a crowd and speak, capitalize on that, because that's where in your motivation you'll be able to say, I've engaged in various, public speaking or oral communication exercises where I've been able to learn how to articulate myself well, to deal with a lot of, also it helps you deal with a lot of confidence issues. A lot of us that shy away when we have to be in front is because of that lack of self-confidence that we tend to have. I started there and look at me now. And that's because I've been very intentional about wanting to always push myself out of my comfort zone, because you won't grow from being behind the scenes, or from really not putting yourself in spaces and opportunities that allow you to evolve and grow. So those are the things that you need to really put in your motivation. Say, talk about your work ethic. So if you're a student, which is not easy, but if you're a student that has always seeked out opportunities like working for the tutorial office, or working, even volunteering sometimes, you don't always have to do it for money. So the career services is always looking for volunteers for their office. You can also volunteer. You can literally go to a faculty and say, I'd like to just shadow, this office and just try and see what it is that you do. And even if it's just making them tea or making them coffee, anything, start somewhere. and get those skills and see what it looks like in this space, because you allow yourself to develop a work ethic. You're able to collaborate. You're able to say, these are soft skills that I've acquired by doing 1, 2, and 3, and making an impression. Someone just put it in the chat that you have to make an impression wherever you go. And majority of the time, someone like me, I'll always forget names, but I'll always remember, someone who always showed up, on time for appointments, on time for commitments that they needed to deliver, and doing things diligently, sticking to the small details that require you to really do things effectively, or things that really add on to the technical skills that you have. So on top of your degree, look at what else it is that you can do that will require you to make you stand out in addition to the degree, because we all have the degree, but what makes you stand out in addition to just having the degree is really the soft skills, and really the ability to collaborate with people and do really well in engagements, where someone will be able to say, without this person here, you can tell that this person is not part of this project, or you can tell that this person needed to be part of this project, because that's how you leave an impression on people, especially here on campus. Just starting by volunteering gets you opportunities where you actually get paid for those skills that you require. So I hope that really answers the question from one of our audience members, and I hope that will be helpful for them as well going forward.
Thank you so much, Kate. I see Pabalo also asked a question. Who will be taking Donald's question before we move to Pabalo's question? Donna, please go for it. Is it Albert?
Thank you, Evodia. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Is it the last question, which was balancing work and school, and also trying to pursue postgraduate or to go for the world of work?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think it's a very challenging one, to be honest. But I think based on my experience as well, I know Butlokwa did alluded on this, but if I need to give a professional opinion on this one, I'll say that I think as individual, I know sometimes it's very difficult to make a decision because sometimes you try to please other parties, especially he did mention the parents, to say they're expecting him to go to work so that he can support them. But in the meantime, I think we are in a space where we can be able to do both at the same time. So what is very important to see is that which postgraduate qualification you want to pursue, specialization, then you check what is being offered in the faculty. If they have a part-time and a full-time, I think in that time you can just opt for a part-time option, because if you get the work, you can still be able to still study. I know in education at UFS, specifically in our campus, that their classes normally are held on Saturdays and Sunday and after work, because most of them are teachers who are studying postgraduate. So I think it is possible, but it will depend on what the faculty is offering in that regards. But if it's not, it's a very difficult one, but I think, the decision, it's a very tough one, but at the end, you need to make a decision that is going to be beneficial to you, mostly because at some point, I think Kate talked about a well-being of individuals. Sometimes we don't put ourselves first. We want to try to, to please other people so that they can be much happier than forget about ourselves. So if you can try to put yourself to say what you want, how passionate about the qualification that you want to pursue. And I think in that way, then you will see, because even if you go for postgraduate full-time, there are opportunities within the institution that you can still gain, make some money for you to still continue, because in the postgraduate, I think Butlokwa did mention that you can be able, if as a teacher, she did manage to get a bursary from Department of Education, which covers your tuition fee, and maybe they also give you some money that you, or a stipend that you get throughout. They don't. Okay, so if it happens that you find yourself doing postgraduate, like if you applied NRF, there is money that you get that can be able to support you throughout your postgraduate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Albert. Butlokwa, you can also weigh in the conversation.
Okay, I love that Mr. Tuna is giving professional advice. just to come in there, the other thing that I think you need to decide on is once you've decided whether you're going to do part-time or full-time, because I've had colleagues who did like their postgrad full-time, but then just know that you're not going to have a social life because you're going to have to push academics. So there are a lot of things that you will not be able to do. So you have to like submit prior to the school to tell them, to let them know that you won't be able to participate in extracurricular activities because you would be in class because you decided on a full-time a program. But nonetheless, it is doable. It's just that there's a lot of things that you're going to have to cut down to ensure that it merges into both your role as a teacher, or if you are a teacher, or your role as an employee, as well as your role as a student. And also in terms of making a decision, I think it's important that you sit your parents down first and let them know, because at the end of the day, you decide. They are not here to study for you, unfortunately. So decide on the opportunities that you want to fulfill, because I know some people want to immediately branch into lecturing. Then it's fine if you are going to pursue your degree, like every year you're registered, you're always a full-time student. So after your honors, you then immediately go into your master's. After your master's, while doing your PhD, then you can enroll into lecturing. But if you want to teach, yeah, I'd rather suggest that you first secure the job, and then once you have the job, then you can go and enroll for your studies.
If you maybe also want to speak to, or maybe Kate or Albert, any of you speak to Babalo's question around, after she's applied for postgrad and while completing her final year, she wants to know, do you send your marks at the end of the second semester to the particular faculty that you've applied to? Or what must she do? Can she contact them? Will they get back to her? What needs to happen? So I'll start with you and then I'll move to the advisors.
Okay. When you apply, there's a section that asks you, what are you currently doing? So if you're going to say you're in your final year, there's an option there that tells you that you're in your final year. The faculty, once all the marks are in at the end of the year, they will receive your marks, and then you should get a response whether you made it into the program or not by latest, I think, February, just right before registration.
Kate, and then Albert. Albert, I see, Albert, you have your hand on. Who are we talking to first?
Is it me speaking now?
You can go for it, Albert.
Great. I think Bohlokwa did mention a very valuable thing, but if you applied, as she said, that the marks, the faculty will get the marks at the end, and also it's very important that remember the guidelines or the prerequisite for postgraduate is very important. The aggregate, you need to have at least 65 in certain programs, and yeah. So I think most of the students, they think that they're going to make it, because some of them, in most of the cases, they just consider final year. They thought that only final year marks are going to be used for them to move to postgraduate, only to find that they calculate the average for everything since when you are first year up to your final year. That's the aggregated average has been used to do the selection process, whether you made it through the program or not. But as Botlokwa said, that at the end you'll get the result, the feedback to say whether you made it or not. And maybe just to add something in the Evodia. So I think it's very important that when you apply postgraduate, try to apply for 2 different specializations based on your majors and from undergraduate studies. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. So it's important. I really want to reiterate what Albert said. Don't just apply to one program. Have a first choice, have a second choice, go as far as having a third choice. Just in terms of your second question, Babalo, it's very important that you do find out, go read the faculty rule book. The rules do change annually, so it's important that you understand what are the rules around repeating a module, even if you want to improve your marks. So that is something that you're definitely going to have to consult. Let's give Nkosi. Nkosi, we're going to give you an opportunity. Let me enable your microphone. Please unmute and see if you're able to speak. I see we're not getting. So what I'm going to ask is that you please put your question in the chat. What we'll also ask is that academic advisors do reach out to you. So ladies and gents, if you did not get an opportunity to ask a question, please do not despair. I really want to encourage, the reason why we have these conversations is to make available the resources for you. So if you're a University of the Free State student, you're more than welcome. Please, we advise that you contact our advisings. If I can ask our advising team, whether it is your central advisors in CTL, and remember their role is also to explore. For those of you who are unsure, you're uncertain, very similar to me. So when I did my undergraduate, I did my undergrad in statistics, and I majored in economics and business management as well as statistics. I thought maybe I want to be a statistician. And I spoke to one of the lecturers that I was tutoring for in my third year. She was the program director for statistics. And I asked basically, what do you do? And I had the privilege of working with statisticians in my department. So I worked even in my undergraduate. And guys, when I saw what they do, they have to develop models. They are working through data, and it needs someone that's meticulous when it comes to detail. And I realized I'm not that. I'm a big picture person. I love conversation. I like connecting ideas. I like solving problems. Obviously, you solve problems through statistics, but I don't want to do repetitive work. I want to think of groundbreaking things and innovate. And that's when I moved to business management. And I'm glad that I had that conversation with someone. So one of the advice I'd like to also give you is, go to LinkedIn. As University of the Free State students, you have access to LinkedIn, you have access to free LinkedIn learning. Go there, type up a job title that you think you want to get into, and go look in the requirements of the job. What are the prerequisites? What are those inherent requirements that they're looking for? And that could be an idea of what you need to venture into in terms of those postgrad studies. But do not believe me, I'm not a professional academic advisor. Please do get in touch with our advising office. Remember, advising SC at UFS.ac.za for those of you on the South Campus, advising QQ for those of you who are on the Kodwa campus, and advising at UFS.ac.za for those of you on the Bloemfontein campus. Please do reach out to your academic advisors, but also reach out to us at stg@ufs.ac.za. If you are looking for a tutor, ladies and gentlemen, remember you can reach ASTEP at astep@ufs.ac.za. For those of you who also are unsure or want to find out about other support, remember you can WhatsApp our GPS line. It's on WhatsApp, 087-240-6370, and all of these are on your screen right now. For those of you who need any type of support, whether emotional, curriculum, non-curriculum, career, reach out to us at GPS. You can call us on 0514019111 and press option 2, or email us at gps@ufs.ac.za. Ladies and gents, before we announce our winners, I really want to encourage for those of you to remember that to complete our evaluation, we want to make sure that we have given you the best possible experience. And if not, tell us how we can improve, and also tell us, how did this webinar help you? Remember, if you had load shedding or for some reason you had to go back to class, our sessions are recorded, and do follow us on Instagram at SecureTheGrad. And you can also get these videos on our YouTube page. So do remember that we will be announcing our winners shortly. But before we announce our winners, I really want to encourage you to seek out for help. The institution is full of support, so you don't have to go alone. All of us guys here go wisha, man. But remember the prize at the end, which is securing the grad and securing the bag. For those of you who said, I don't know how to articulate myself, how do I sound proper like Bushokwa and I know my story? Remember, if you're a final year postgrad students, you can register for our ED module. They will help you take stock, reflect of what skills have you acquired in your journey in your undergrad or postgrad, and help you put it together and articulate it. For those of you who want to get into postgrad, you put together a portfolio that you can submit as part of your application. Or those of you who want to get into employment or become entrepreneurs, this is where you can put together a very well put profile of yourself that will give you a competitive edge in the world of work. Ladies and gents, also do remember, if you need mental health support, do reach out to us on our WhatsApp line and we will connect you to one of the counselors at the University of the Free State. You're not in this alone. Also, do remember, LinkedIn Learning is there for you. Some of you asked how you can get hold of us. lil@ufs.ac.za. We will help you activate. And now, ladies and gents, it's time to tell you who our winners are. To our team, let's see. Our 5 winners, Thembile Mgomezulu, Babalo Masilo, Donald Langa, Mafuma Malishwani, and Maso Shwani Nkadimeng. Congratulations for engaging with us. Do remember to send us an email with all your details, student number, contact details, your name and surname, SecureTheGrad@ufs.ac.za. As I said, tell us also the name of the webinar you attended. Your prizes will get to you. Remember to follow us again on our social media platforms. To all our panelists, if we can get your cameras on, you have been absolutely amazing. Thank you for pouring everything that you have into this webinar. You could see it was an engaging conversation, so much that we learned, myself as well, particularly around the balance. Albert, those ABCs, critical there, Boshokwa, you know, the planning. I think if there's one thing I'm going to take from you is planning. I'm planned at work, but in my private life, guys, yo, Boshokwa, please help a girl out. And Kate, you know, unpacking it so beautifully for us around how students can be assisted by the advisors and how critical it is to take stock and reflect. To our audience, you have been a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for being engaging and for staying with us. Remember, STG will be coming to you, the campus near you very soon. We're going to be having a lot of pop-up webinars this semester. Our focus this semester, though, is going to be focusing on career as well as wellness. So those of you who are uncertain about what careers you need to take, where do you need to go to, how to fund your studies going forward, particularly for postgrad, do follow our social media platforms to hear where we'll be talking to you soon. To my technical team in the background, it's been lovely working with you today. And those of you who will be watching our webinars, thank you for continuing to support us. From us here at #SecureTheGrad, have a wonderful afternoon and see you soon.